First, I would like to read a quote from Paul Brunton describing the state of enlightenment. As with many of his quotes, I believe he is describing here his own state, as well as an objective state that hopefully all of us will experience one day. The effects of enlightenment include an imperturbable detachment from outer possessions, rank, honor, and persons, an overwhelming certainty about truth, a carefree heavenly peace above all disturbances, an acceptance of the general rightness of the universal situation, with each entity and each event playing its role, and an impeccable sincerity which says what it means and means what it says. So we spoke about the yoga of the liberating smile. I decided we could call Paul Brunton the yogi with the liberated smile. And that is probably coming from where he says, a carefree heavenly peace above all disturbances. So tonight we are going to talk about what is an idea and review 4 of the 28 categories in the notebooks of Paul Brunton. And the categories I have chosen have to do with the development of the lower vehicles: the body, the emotions, the intellect, and healing. So let us read a quote about a spiritual idea. Getting intensely absorbed in a true spiritual idea may, if it penetrates to a sufficient depth, put one into communication with the universal mind. This in turn enables him or her to receive intuitively what could not be found intellectually. So in this case he's saying if we're concentrated enough and go deep enough, then we will penetrate into the universal mind. And what we shared on Monday suggests that he had this contact on a permanent basis. If this is true, then the ideas in the notebooks are inspired ideas. I will use a different example from music. Mozart wrote in a letter to his sister that he received the insight for one of his symphonies in a flash. It was not in space and time. The symphony was in one instant altogether. And he said it was very difficult then to write out the part for each instrument one by one. So in the musical mind of Mozart, the idea is received as a symphony that exists initially out of space and time. And in the mind of Paul Brunton, who is a trained writer, the idea is received as a written communication. So when we talk about the body, the emotions, and the intellect, we are talking about how to create an ego that can serve as a vessel for the light. If the purpose of life is to serve and to bring down the light and to receive the impulses from above, then we must purify and transform the lower vehicles so that this can happen. I will use Paul Brunton as an example of someone who has done this. On Monday I said that Paul Brunton is an example of a human being who has become enlightened, that he is an example for us. And someone asked me, how can you use him as an example for us if he was from Sirius? So I want to give an explanation. The highest part of all of us is divine. That means that our overselves are the same as Paul Brunton's overself. If he came from Sirius, that means that the higher vehicles were more developed, but he still incarnated into a human form, and that human form has to be developed and perfected. Because he incarnated from the beginning at conception, and because he developed the lower vehicles until he became enlightened, I believe that he shows us human beings that it is possible to do this in the human form. Maybe it would take us thousands of incarnations to do what he did in one incarnation. But what gives me hope about the example of his life, that it can be done, that the human form can be brought to this state where it brings down and reflects the higher impulses without distortion. When we talk about transforming and developing the lower vehicles, that is an energetic transformation process that is different from the philosophic work of transcending. But the transcendence cannot happen unless the transformation takes place first. So it is very necessary that we transform and purify energetically the lower vehicles that place us here on earth.